We are transmitting live from San Diego, California, from the studios of KPBS on the campus of San Diego State University. Greetings to our participants in Mexico, Panama, Costa Rica, Colombia, Paraguay, Brazil, Argentina, and other countries in Latin America. We would also like to welcome our distinguished viewers here in the United States. And we would like to thank once again Telecomunicaciones de México, PanamSat, and BrazilSat for their satellite linkage services, which allow us to reach all of you through the wonders of telecommunications. Welcome to the program The Intelligent Organization, The Power of Human Potential, the fifth video conference in our series 1995 Management Systems for the 21st Century. My name is Armando Osorio, and I will be your moderator for this video conference. We would like to remind the coordinators at each receive site to collect the attendance sheets for your site and return them to the International Training Center as soon as possible. At this time, you should also return to us a list of names of participants interested in obtaining the certificate or diploma for the series. This program is composed of 2 presentation modules and 2 question and answer sessions. We look forward to your live participation. The recent phenomenon of global competitiveness mandates that today's organizations evolve towards structures and work processes more flexible than ever, incorporating learning and adaptive capabilities that can constantly reorient products and services towards profitability. The concept of the intelligent organization was introduced recently by Peter Senge, who proposed various crucial elements which will push these organizations towards world leadership: human resources with an objective vision reality, an open mind and commitment towards future growth, team learning, and an overall synthetic management approach. The organization which does not learn because of a lack of these elements will fall prey to globalization. An essential ingredient for success in managing the intelligent organization, however, will be a permanent effort of strategic visioning to elevate its learning to a clear dimension of realistic competitiveness congruent with the values and expectations of its human resource base. Our distinguished invited expert will talk about practical schemes to maximize your human potential and the opportunities which the engineering information technologies provide in this regard. This exciting video conference will help executives and decision makers in general to incorporate effective motivational and leadership actions to push your personnel beyond the mere compliance to organizational diagrams and process flow charts to a truly new level of continuous learning and success. It is my pleasure to present to you today's guest and expert speaker, Mr. Thomas Hoffmann. Mr. Hoffmann is Executive Director of Global Accounts and Sales for AT&T in San Francisco, California. From 1989 to 1991, Mr. Hoffmann was Administrative Director of Quality for AT&T's Western region. He was also responsible for the introduction and support of the concept of total quality in the Western sales vision. Mr. Hoffmann is originally from Wisconsin and began his career with AT&T in 1970. He has been selected as Senior Evaluator for the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award for the period 1990-1994. He has also been a guest faculty member for the Estonian Business School in Tallinn, Estonia, and has published numerous works on strategic vision and human resource management. Welcome, Mr. Hoffmann. Let us begin Module 1, where Mr. Hoffmann will discuss the qualities of the intelligent organization.
How do organizations learn? How does an organization become intelligent? If we do become an intelligent organization, will we automatically release the power of human potential? I wish there were easy answers to those questions. There aren't. However, we have no choice but to become a learning organization if we are going to be competitive in today's global business world. Fortunately, the excitement of discovery leads us to search and learn clues to the answers. Hopefully today, we can explore some of the concepts which may help us discover how to help each of our organizations become learning, intelligent organizations. When we think of a learning organization, the name Peter Senge immediately comes to mind. In the fifth discipline, the art and practice of the learning organization, Peter Senge paints a picture of key components which, when developed as an ensemble, lead an organization to become a learning organization. You may recall those 5 disciplines: personal mastery, mental models, shared vision, team learning, and systems thinking. In the past several years, you may have heard me refer to them in terms of the world I work in, namely personal growth, an organic view, strategic vision, the corporate brain, and holistic thinking. Some of you may have heard you have your own labels in your own companies for the very same concepts. In this segment, let's discuss briefly and take a look at how Peter Senge describes each of the disciplines. Then, we'll look at another approach to becoming a learning organization, building on the thoughts of Nick Imparato and Oren Harari, authors of the book Jumping the Curve. Finally, in the second segment, I'll share some stories about an approach we use to become a learning organization and some stories about some other companies. Let's review Peter Senge's 5 disciplines. Since the 5th discipline integrates all the other disciplines, we'll begin with that one. The 5th discipline is systems thinking. Systems thinking, says Senge, is the discipline for seeing wholes. It is the framework for seeing interrelationships rather than things, for seeing patterns of change rather than static snapshots. Systems thinking is the discipline for seeing structures that underlie complex situations and for discerning high from low leverage change. We view systems thinking as holistic thinking. Part of the discipline which helped to view our business holistically was the quality movement. The introduction of quality helped our employees to begin to look at total processes end to end. It also gave our people a foundation to consistently think of the whole business, not just isolated pieces. As we like to say, linking our business, linking our vision, our values, and our strategies and work functions. However, the danger of thinking quality will lead to systematic thinking is erroneous if you think of quality as a set of tools to analyze processes. We use a broader view of quality, one which moves away from a mechanistic way of thinking to one which is more organic. Think of the business as working like an organism rather than a machine. The systems thinking discipline interacts with the other disciplines and allows them to be more effective and integrated with one another. So let's look at the other disciplines. The first discipline is personal mastery, a personal commitment to lifelong learning. Personal mastery, says Senge, is the discipline of continually clarifying and deepening our personal vision, of focusing our energies, of developing patience, and of seeing reality objectively. As such, it is the cornerstone of the learning organization, the learning organization's spiritual foundation. An organization's commitment to and capacity for learning can be no greater than that of its members. This doesn't imply that only developed countries have people who are committed to learning. Rather, it is anyone anywhere who is actively working on becoming better and learning or contributing to others' learning. For example, a U.S. company, which I believe is an example of a learning organization, had only 20% of its employees who completed high school, and only 40% spoke English. Presented with this challenge, they became an employee-run company which, through continuous learning, was able to produce computer backboards error-free for 7 consecutive years. How did they do it? Each person was committed to learning together whatever it took to reach a clearly stated vision. This poses several questions for us. How do people learn? How do people like to learn? What is the motivation for lifelong learning? How do organizations support and reinforce lifelong learning? How do people learn? The common answer is experience or experientially. Logically, then, we have to ask ourselves, how does one experience? Klaus Melander, in The Art of Learning, approaches learning from a holistic view. Melander's premise is that people generally learn about things as complete objects or organisms before they learn the component parts. Some of you engineers may disagree with me. Let's take an example of learning how to ride a bicycle. When you were a child, did you learn to ride a bike by learning what the components parts were? Namely, a bike has 2 spoked wheels with rubber tires, handlebars, brakes, pedals, a chain, chainstay, crankshaft, a seat, fenders, etc. And then you assembled them in your mind? Or did you just grab the bike, jump on, and give it a try? Or maybe your father or mother or a sibling ran alongside of you holding onto the bike until you seemed to catch on. A critical element in experiential learning is feedback. Riding the bike, you received immediate feedback by having the sensation you were tipping over, going too fast, or running into a nearby tree to stop, like I did. You learned to adjust your weight for balance, how to turn, how to brake safely. Repeating the experience, you trained yourself to unconsciously do all the mental or physical things necessary to ride the bike without even thinking about it. Let's look at another example. How do your people learn to make sales calls? If your company is like ours was, this may sound familiar. We sent all our new hires off to class to learn all the steps or processes of making a successful sales call. And at the end of the course, the student finally experienced a role-play sales call. And since they were concentrating on doing everything correct, they usually had a very difficult time. Based on systems thinking and learning, we have now revised our process. We start by having the new employees experience a sales call, and then learn about the elements which will make them more successful. A final personal example might be for those of you who play golf. How many of you played the game before you took lessons to learn the parts? A caution for leaders and managers. Feedback from decisions you make today may not be viewed for several months, maybe years, or sometimes decades. Systematic thinking becomes more critical so that you understand the underlying systems and structures which will support your decisions over time and lead to the desired outcomes. As one looks at personal mastery in the context of the organization, a key question becomes, how does the organization support personal mastery? Does the mental model we have for learning support how people learn? Do we create learning experiences or conduct information sessions? Does the organization give appropriate feedback? In this context, recall that last year we spoke about the 2 most cost-effective and best ways to motivate people. They are give them clear visions and objectives, and give them honest, timely feedback. In our organization, personal mastery is viewed as essential for our business success. We believe that if a person is striving to be fully developed, to be a lifelong learner, that the organization will achieve success. Hence the reason you have heard me speak before of the importance of our associates to have a personal vision of what they wish to accomplish in life, and how what they are doing in the business fits in with their life plan. People with a commitment to learning are the foundation of our future success. The key is to have people understand how they are connected to the whole, how they are connected to the world around them, to the customer, and to the organization. Senge concludes that the organizational climate that leaders create will reinforce the fact that personal growth is valued, and that the core leadership strategy is simple: be a model. The second discipline, according to Senge, is mental models. Mental models are deeply ingrained assumptions, generalizations, or even pictures or images that influence how we understand the world and how we take action. The discipline of working with mental models starts with turning the mirror inward, looking to unearth our internal pictures of the world, to bring them to the surface and hold them rigorously to scrutiny. We use mental models constantly, but unconsciously. How we view our family, how we view the community we live in, how we view our countries, how we view our work, and our companies are all viewed through models we have created to understand the world around us. And because we understand things that way, we act using them. Therefore, they have a lot of influence on our lives. For example, Joel Barker, futurist, tells the story of a person, let's call him Joe, driving down a hilly, curvy road and is approaching a corner. An oncoming car speeds around the corner coming towards Joe, swerving back and forth, almost out of control. Joe swerved to get out of the way of the oncoming car. He thought the person must be drunk. As the oncoming car rushed by, the driver shouts, "Pig!" Joe couldn't believe his ears. He wasn't at fault. The other guy almost hit him. Who did that person think he was, calling him a pig? Joe really got angry and sped up as he went around the corner. Joe hit the pig. The mental model Joe had of a drunk driver and of being insulted did not allow him to understand what really was happening. The oncoming driver was attempting to warn Joe of the danger ahead. Joel Barker calls these paradigms. How we view the world and act upon those models. If you think of it, magicians make a living playing on our mental models. A body of work which I believe is closely related to this concept is the work of Roger Mills, one of the directors of the California School of Professional Psychology. For 5 years, Roger and his team researched to understand how residents of inner-city communities could revive and reclaim their own neighborhoods versus having someone from the outside come in and attempt to fix it. While there are many influences, Roger's findings reinforced the power of mental models of how people living in those communities viewed their world. But what was most exciting was that when one understood how they were viewing the world and changed how they acted upon the models, all the skills which normally were thought to have to be trained to revive communities, for example, leadership skills, planning skills, organizing skills, etc., emerged from the people as a package. In fact, training specific skill sets in a linear fashion was of marginal value. The results which several inner-city communities have had implementing Roger's approach are amazing. I'm so excited about the potential this may have for the people in our business, I'll be attending one of Roger's seminars next month. Think of it, the potential of unleashing a package of skills, competencies versus linear development. That's an incredibly powerful thought. With reference to mental models, the key of organization, says Senge, is if managers believe that worldviews are facts rather than sets of assumptions, they will not be opening to challenging those worldviews. Systems thinking allows one to see the flaws in our mental models. The third discipline is shared vision. Over the past few years, I've been speaking with you on the importance of strategic vision and values. Recall the definition we used for vision from Peter Drucker. He says, vision is our deepest expression of what we want. It is the preferred future, a desirable state, an ideal state, an expression of optimism. It expresses the spiritual and idealistic side of our nature. It is a dream created in our waking hours of how we would like our lives to be. Essentially, the vision is the what. It articulates a realistic, credible, attractive future, a condition that in some important ways is better than what now exists. As you will recall, the experts say that the qualities of vision are futuristic, image, ideal, and unique. First, futuristic. Visions are statements of destinations, says Jim Kouzes, the author of The Leadership Challenge. A point somewhere in the distance ahead. The idea of future for people contains power. People have important work left to do. Recall the story about Viktor Frankl in the concentration camp. The common theme of all those who survived the camps was that each person had something they believed extremely important left to do. They had to stay alive to accomplish it. Second is image. Vision is a C word, a picture word, a word that creates an image. It gives us the capacity to live out of our imagination, says Stephen Covey. Third, it's ideal. Vision expresses desired futures. Visions express a new standard of excellence, a level of achievement, a new level of achievement. And the concept of ideal reveals our value preferences rooted in belief systems of what is most important to us. And fourth, visions are unique. They set you apart from every other business. They tell your customers and your employees what is different about your company and what you stand for. One of the concerns which seems to arise is, what is the context for creating a vision? Simply, it's the market. What are your assumptions about the marketplace you will be serving? What do you believe it will be like in 2 to 5 years? What will you have to be like to be ready? What do you want your company to be? Core to success is that visions must be shared visions. The power of vision comes from a common caring, and peak performance begins with a commitment to that vision. Leaders have opportunity to paint visions at any time. For example, in the movie Gettysburg, Colonel Chamberlain has just received a group of 120 men who the Army declared deserters. Colonel Chamberlain would like them to join his men in fighting the battle. Listen carefully. Listen to how the Colonel paints the vision, values, and creates motivation and commitment.
You men, gather round. I've been talking with Private Buckland. He's told me about your problem. There's nothing I can do today. We're moving out in a few minutes. We'll be moving all day. I've been ordered to take you men with me. I'm told that that if you don't come, I can shoot you. Well, you know I won't do that. Maybe somebody else will, but I won't. So, that's that. Here's the situation. The whole Reb Army is up that road a ways waiting for us, so this is no time for an argument like this, I tell you. We could surely use you fellas. We're now well below half strength. Whether you fight or not, that's up to you. Whether you come along is well, you're coming. You know who we are, what we're doing here, but if you're going to fight alongside us, there's a few things I want you to know. This regiment was formed last summer in Maine. There were 1,000 of us then. There are less than 300 of us now. All of us volunteered to fight for the Union, just as you did. Some came mainly because we were bored at home. Thought this looked like it might be fun. Some came because we were ashamed not to. Many of us came because it was the right thing to do. And all of us have seen men die. This is a different kind of army. If you look back through history, you will see men fighting for pay, for women, for some other kind of loot. They fight for land, power. Because a king leads them, or just because they like killing. But we are here for something new. This has not happened much in the history of the world. We are an army out to set other men free. America should be free ground. All of it. Not divided by a line between slave state and free. All the way. From here to the Pacific Ocean. No man has to bow. No man born to royalty. Here we judge you by what you do, not by who your father was. Here you can be something. Here is the place to build a home. But it's not the land. There's always more land. It's the idea that we all have value. You and me. What we're fighting for, in the end, we're fighting for each other.